Okay, so okay, so uh okay, so um my name is Anthony, Jose Anthony. Uh Jose's my first name. Anthony's my name, my middle name, but they call me Anthony. And I'm gonna say I've been wrong before, and I'm probably still wrong about a lot of stuff. But also, God has been so good through that wrongness and literally shielding me through my freaking wickedness. And I know I've been wrong, and it sucks. It's just the wickedness that you feel, it sucks. You know it's not good, you know. I don't know, but God's grace has been so good to me. And, you know, I grew up, I guess, in and out of different places and stuff. And it's always been a mess, you know, just growing up everywhere in different places. California, Northern California, Pittsburgh area, and all that. And you know, God has been good to me. He's been very holy, and as a young kid, he was always good to me, and I loved him. I was innocent, I was naive, but I loved him. I still am, I guess. But throughout my life, a lot of stuff was not good around me. And not to say that I was perfect either, but you know, I don't know. There's a difference between going, being sinful and living a sinful life, and kind of being innocent, trying to be holy, right? And I say that because it's still, you know, I was very innocent, but there was a lot of sinful people around me, which I guess we all have. But you know, I was very lonely, and sort of, I didn't always grow up, at least in my household, with people that were godly and people that that's what my mom always told me about Jesus, but that's about it. I never really showed anything holy in my house. So stuff like that kind of pulled on me. But even though that was the case, I did, however, have a lot of family members that were good, maybe at the same degree I was. Not no one's truly good but God, but they were very good in the actions that they took and the path that they chose. They chose to do good, and you know, to a degree, showed me a lot of love and stuff like that. And yeah, so I had that, but still there was that constant chaos and constant being pulled. But throughout that, God protected me, had grace. And you know, that was all cool, but until I stupidly, during maybe middle school, started going down the wrong path. You know, my mom was in a bad situation, sleeping on the floor, and it was just bad. And that's not why I did this. It was just the bad situation was there, and I don't know. I guess I just kind of went off the rails a little bit. I didn't go off the rails, actually. It's not true, but I started to. You know, I peeked in the corner of what was going on around me in my household and what other people did, sort of, in this burning, this wickedness that was there. It's a special type of wickedness. It's not just stupidity and stuff and kids making bad decisions. It's like sin, like actual sin. And I fell into it. I started smoking in the 7th grade, I think. I tried it. You know, I grew up, not my stepdad, technically not my stepdad. He was my mom, the dude who was sleeping with my mom and was in the house, not sleeping with me. The dude who was with my mom at the time, I guess, and he lived with us. They smoked. I grew up with my mom smoking, you know, stuff like that. All the time, it's kind of just normal. And so I tried it, and I don't know, it was just weird. Didn't fully go down the wrong path, and there was also gang influences, even though I didn't directly see it as gangs, because it was so there was just the wickedness itself. I didn't grow up thinking about gangs and stuff, but I know later on that cult influence behavior was there, you know, and a certain Mexican, you know, stuff like you just bad, not good stuff, even just hood stuff, I guess you could say. It wasn't good. And but after that, I started, you know, going on the wrong direction, but not necessarily. It wasn't even the wrong direction. It just slowly corrupted you, you know. And I didn't really fully practice it until like the fourth grade. In the fourth grade, I'd say I got really bad. I got obsessed with certain things, and even that culture, what that feeling was, and all that stuff, and it was bad. And I went off the wrong path. And I remember right before that too as well, I was watching something that sort of put me away from God. It was somebody who was innocently questioning God and unsure, but it caused me to question. But outside of that, I decided to just make a stupid decision. I said, you know what, God, I'm gonna take a break from you. And it was bad. It was bad. It was a bad decision. I just asked him, you know, I just told him, you know, God, I want to take a break from you. If you're real, I don't know, but I'm gonna give this belief and hope and stuff. You know, I wouldn't swear to God, you know, all that stuff. I kind of stopped. I didn't stop doing that. I still did that for some reason, even though I made that decision. But kind of veered away from God, or I did, but I allowed. But the most important thing, even if I wasn't fully away from God, I was kind of whatever. I allowed sin and the influence of evil, of Satan, to influence me pretty bad. And it got bad. I was smoking. I was listening to music that I sort of grew up on with, not on. I didn't go on my way to listen to it, but I grew up with, and it sort of corrupted me. I was used to it. To me, it just didn't feel like music. It was just like, okay, this is something that like almost like a person in your life that talks to you bad. Like it was like you accepted it as someone that's forced in your life. But it was music. You know, I grew up heavy on that stuff, that influence. And yeah, so I not heavy, but here and there, and different. I grew up around different people, you know, or different parts of the family. You know, I was kind of going around family member here and there. When mom wasn't watching me, it was different stuff. It was kind of like that. But yeah, so that influenced me in the ninth grade. I started getting bad. You know, it was just bad, and so eventually, I remember I was smoking, and I was smoking for like 3 days. I was smoking for like it could whatever, and I remember staying up all night. And for some reason, I was staying up, and then I was amping myself up, and I was like, I just felt like this feeling, and that feeling I let it take over slowly. It was like slight feeling, but it was like real. It was like someone pinching, like a pain, you know, but it was not good. At the same time, it was not good. I don't know. It was very. I don't know, but basically that had happened, and I was doing that, and I was doing that happened, and then for 3 days, not 3. I think it was maybe one full night, and then a day. And then, you know, I kind of like stayed up. I don't know, something like I was basically up for a while smoking, and I believe that's what they said, the mania kicked in. So I was diagnosed with bipolar now, kind of, but it's still up in the air. It's old kind of stuff. I've kind of like gone away from it. It's kind of got to heal. But basically, that happened. I stayed up for 3 days. I believe the mania was kicking in, and I remember thinking. I had all these thoughts and was going intense, and the music was affecting me bad, you know, salsa, freaking, all that stuff, and just, you know, all this music, all this gang influenced music, it was bad, and, you know, I remember going to, ended up taking me to the hospital. I remember going to school early in the morning, and going to school, and just walking around. I was like weirdly like float, like almost like an adrenaline kind of thing, and I was like floating. And I remember going to the thing, and the security guard, I was saying stuff and going into different classrooms, and the security guard pulled me into the hallway, and there was a bunch of people there, and the police came in and they searched my bag. They were like, "What?" And I just let them go, and I started having this sense of like aura around them. Like I saw like this is almost like God peeking through the mental breakdown, but still showing me peace. But I couldn't understand it. My mind was just going chaotic at the same time. But this was like separate at the same time. This feeling, and I almost saw people as like almost like the Holy Spirit and how God was working through them in a certain way that seemed peaceful while they're all sitting there in the room with me. But at the same time, I was going a little bit, this, and they were like carefully asking me things and all this. And then there was the counselor lady. The counselor lady I didn't really feel that with, but I think she's the one who called the ambulance to come. But they were all had to, sit there and support whatever's going on and make sure I'm not doing something bad. And they were all kind of like, it's a school procedure. They're all, it's their responsibility. So they all kind of, I think, something like that. I don't know. Whatever. So that happened, but I remember thinking there were angels or something, because I was trying to interpret this thing I was feeling. I was like, are they angels? Are you guys angels? Like, I remember asking that, turning around. You guys are angels, right? And I remember thinking it was like some kind of a test, and it was just mixed with my mania. And then basically I ended up going to the hospital. I ended up going to the hospital, and they took me to the mental hospital, and a whole bunch of stuff happened. I don't know if it's too graphic, but I was in the hospital and I was just doing, it wasn't even bad, because it was just like not disturbing, but like wrong stuff. I was just wrong. I don't know, I was doing wrong stuff. Like they had me locked in a separate room from everybody, and I was like freaking out. I was like banging the door. I was like, let me out. Like I was just, something was, it just, I don't know. It was like, let me out. But I was also saying that because I was confused at what was going on. Like they wouldn't tell me, and I was like, let me out. I thought I was like literally being held from like an experiment or something. I had no idea what was going on. Like they wouldn't tell me nothing, why I was there, all that stuff, and why. And they transferred me to hospitals, and I wasn't sure what was going on. I saw my mom was crying. Oh, they actually had me, I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff. I want to get into detail, but that happened. And then I ended up coming home and calming down, and they put me on these meds, man. The meds, probably the worst part of all this. They actually made all my symptoms worse. Not only that, they sedated me to the point where it didn't feel good at all to do anything, even talk about how bad it was. Like it was so bad that it was just like my mind was it was like weird. Like your mind is how you speak and all that stuff, and it just messed all that up. And I was kind of not good. It calmed me down, but not calm me. I wasn't actually calm. I was chaotic inside, but it was like melting, like burning in a lava, but I couldn't do anything about it type thing. Or I couldn't really, I don't know. It's just the drugs was bad. But to a degree, to a certain point, it would help, but it was like there was no like it was like all bad. Like my brain was so jacked up, and I got headaches, and it was just not good. The way I felt was groggy, and it was disgusting. It was not good. It was no way to live life, and it was like that, and it was torture. I don't know, but I was on that for a little while. But after that, the next year, I kind of calmed down. And it wasn't due to the meds. I don't think that it was just my decision, just letting it go and calming down, and maybe God. It was God for sure, and God gave me peace. And he knew I didn't want to be that. He knew that I think because there was a sense of righteousness. Obviously, I had that righteousness and still holiness with me. So I think God he knew ahead of time, and he knew whatever. So I had this peace, and I had this secret, like, belief in God, but it wasn't necessarily secret. I just didn't think to speak on it. I just was like, oh, I'm feeling good. I had this feeling that people could see it or know it, and people know this feeling, know God, so they're not gonna really. I don't know how to explain it. But although I wasn't very boastful, and it wasn't too, I wasn't too mature in it, if that makes sense. So I in that specific holiness, however, I did have the spirit was very strong and clear, and it's something that I loved and got to know, I guess, that feeling of God since I was a kid. So I kind of like, But still, I was still, for some reason, there was a lot of darkness around me, and I just peek into that darkness, and it wasn't good. That wasn't a good idea, and I chose to, I don't know, I just wasn't all the way there, but I still was holy. I wasn't like that 24/7. I was still doing my best and not doing that proudly. You know, I was mature. You know, I wasn't whatever, but that happened all the way up until, so that it was kind of chill all the way up until I was still on my meds, but all the way up until I graduated. After I graduated, I was smoking a lot too, here and there. That's probably was part of it, smoking, and I don't know, I just wanted a weird experience, and that would mess with my feelings as well. And the meds, it all combined to be not good, as long with the meds itself. I know for sure, like, you know, and there was a different feeling when you would be adjusting the meds, and then it just, and then with combined, it just, sometimes it'd be all right, and then sometimes it wasn't. But it wasn't worth it at all. I noticed the times it was all right wasn't because of the weed necessarily. It was because the weed was I was used to, or you know, this stuff like this wasn't good. But basically, I was on and off that, and then ninth grade. I mean, after all that stuff, I also made a bad decisions. You know, during that time. But not after I graduated. I sort of didn't come to my senses, but you know, I kind of calmed down. I shaved my head. I was cool. As after COVID started to end, and I was my graduation, and I was still believing in God. Like I still had God. Like it wasn't like I was completely away. I just never really talked about it. And I kind of came back after that ninth grade year, after it was really bad, and I stopped. And I knew better not to go down that path like that. You know, I kind of came back a little bit, but not fully in the way I was going to. And then, which I'm about to talk about. So basically, that happened, and then I graduated. I started talking to God. Right? It was about, you know, I just started asking questions. You know, I try to stop doing certain things, and you know, I was asking questions, and then this whole different situation, which is a whole different testimony about this car accident happened where I was about to get in a car accident, and I had this feeling, and the guy was drunk, but I decided to go for whatever reason. And I was asking God if I should or shouldn't. I started asking God questions for some reason at that time. Because I started like being more intentional physically with how I was interacting with him, I guess. Which I guess I had to balance out, and it was, you know, I'm still this isn't, I'm not saying that this is what exactly helped me. God helped me, period. Doesn't mean it matter if I did that or like asking questions actually helped, but I was doing it, and I don't know, but I remember God had mercy on me though, whether I should have asked those questions or not, but God had mercy, and I was flipping the pillow and doing all this stuff, and then right before I got into this car, I got this feeling that something was bad. Not bad, but you know that feeling that it's like off, and it's like almost like in the like you have the spirit is around you, and you know there's something there that is going to go bad, but also God is there at the same time. And it was like that. It was like, you know, like just like there's water, and there could be a dangerous shark in the middle there, but there's also a piece about where things are going, if that makes sense, because the water is actually something good. It's not like it's gonna get you wet. Instead, that thing showed you that it was good, not wet, you know. But like the water, or it was gonna get you wet, it was gonna do something good. So it was God, but something like that. I could be wrong about how I'm describing it. I don't know if I'm describing it wrong. But basically, I put my seatbelt on, and it's changed. And then we got into a car accident, but somehow it was like God saved me, and I was gonna, like, you know, this happened. I remember walking, talking to, you know, my friend about God and Jesus Christ, and how I was talking to God, and I'm rolling a ball down the hill. I said, if God, I was just thinking about God, if God is this. I didn't say this, but I thought just Jesus Christ, this. And I kind of thought it'll make it stop, kind of thing. Or if it happens, it'll make it stop, this ball. And it stopped right as soon as I said that. And I kept rolling it down, and I was like, whoa, I don't know. And it wasn't like a sign. It was just like I commanded, like, this is what it is. And it was like power, like, you know. I'm continuing back with what I started. I had to come back to it. But, so yeah, so I was talking with God through I guess the storm that I was going through, rolling up the ball, the hill, and talking with God. And ever since then, I started following God more. And then other stuff started happening. I started sticking up for things that I knew were wrong and stuff. And I got kicked out of the house, and it led me to get my job. I'm gonna be honest, I was abused by my mother a little bit, stuff like that. And it's been a back and forth. And growing up, drug, just stuff happening and like that. But I just ended up getting kicked out the house over sticking up for my autistic brother. And just being abused, and so I left, and I ended up getting this Home Depot job through my aunt. And I got this job, and basically, not to oversimplify it, I came to God and through that job. And I also met some people of God. And so that happened, and then ever since then, I started taking God, like full blown, just taking God and repenting, humbling, trying to humble myself, as well as finding grace and coming to God. And attempting to be holy and trying to mature slowly, maybe not at a super fast pace, but maturing and developing in God and Christ. And He's been holy and merciful to me. And He's also, I say that I grew up in an abusive household and in a complicated household and a lot of bad stuff. But God, even when I was naive, God still protected me, and I still loved Him. Obviously, I used to pray to God when I was younger, and I knew about Jesus Christ. Oddly enough, through my mom, who still was abusive and was abusing things, and it wasn't good. And then, still isn't good, but you never know what can happen. So that's pretty much the testimony of how I started coming to God and the grace that God has been to me. And I remember fasting and talking with God, and I remember all that mental illness stuff that was triggered by bipolar, which was triggered most likely through stress and trauma. And who knows? I've almost been pretty much forgiven for that, and that helped me out. Like, it literally stopped a lot of that stuff, and I've been pretty much good ever since. I struggle here and there, but I've been pretty good with that, and I've been, it's been a blessing. I've been getting blessed. Even through my mistakes, I still fail sometimes, but I still try to remain holy. Like the Bible says, be holy like God is holy. And through the Holy Spirit, I'm able to, find that holiness through God and in the purification of God as I go through this good fight of faith that God has blessed us with and journey with. And that's basically the story of how I led up to the start of this journey. Obviously, there's more to it, but that's not to oversimplify it again, because I know it probably deserves more attention to detail. There's definitely a lot more that God did. God has came through at last moments, things that I know are only God. I've prayed, I fasted for things, and I've blessed other people through that, by saying things, trying to be obedient, although I'm not always obedient because I don't always know what to, sometimes I don't know, maybe I overthink it. I don't know. I'm still, learning to discern God's way and what is God and what is overdoing it, what's not God, and, things of that nature. But so I've done that, and so it's just been a good journey as long as I've been faithful to God, as I've been with God, it's been good. But doesn't mean there's more to come, and I have no idea what's to come. But that's basically my testimony of how my second relationship, or my new relationship with God, started back up in a more honest, self-admitting that I believe in God way. Right before, it was just all small, internal. Now I guess more mature in my faith as well. But that's it.